All right, thank you so much, Paul. We want to get back to the jump in unemployment numbers in LA County since the wildfires. UCLA economics professor and lead author of a new study, Wachter, is joining us. Professor, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, great. We were having some technical difficulties there. Okay, yeah, we want to know more about this study. Tell us what your key findings were.
Well, we used a new data source here at the California Policy Lab at UCLA that measures the number of people filing for unemployment benefits. And this data source can allow us to really zoom in at the local level and see who was affected by the fires. So right now we knew the fires were devastating in many ways, but we didn't really know how workers were affected. And what we find is surprising is that not only those who were directly affected for the fires filed for unemployment benefits, but workers all over LA filed for higher unemployment benefits. And the reason is, of course, that many people commuted into the fire areas to work. And these were workers from service sectors, so workers working in restaurants, hotels, healthcare, social assistants. And those have longer commutes. And not only those are also typically lower income workers, and they're sometimes less educated. So we're seeing workers hit by the fires, right, that are already struggling. And the good news here is that unemployment benefits can make up part of those losses.
Unemployment benefits can, but they can only go so far.
Right.
When we're looking at some of these, as you said, kind of lower wage jobs and people being, forced out of these areas, is there a potential they can move into other industries like construction, or are we seeing people do that, or are people just having to kind of sit out right now as the rebuild happens?
Well, the silver lining perhaps here is that most people seem to have rebounded in the sense that they left unemployment benefits. Of course, there's always some that are struggling more, but this seems to have been a temporary shock as workers are sort of reallocating themselves, as economists say, right? But we should keep watching, and we will be watching how these longer term outcomes are, where these workers end up, and of course, how the fire areas themselves rebound.
Yeah, can you talk about the unemployment insurance program, which is meant to help people temporarily? Did it do what it was supposed to do?
Yes, absolutely. This is a program that helps employees primarily, right, to have temporary income replacement when you lose your job. And it also helps you when you lose your job because of a fire. And people need to know about this program. It can really help you over the short term. It's also important to remember that there is another program. It's called Disaster Unemployment Assistance, DUA, the many shortcuts. And this helps self-employed individuals. And that's a program that's much less well known among those who are self-employed because they wouldn't typically qualify. And so it's good to keep in mind what resources the state has to help you when disaster strikes.
Yeah, I think this is really informative for people who may not know where to get resources. Do you have any idea, have you been able to look at numbers? You may not be able to answer this question, but are people leaving our area because of the lost jobs and unemployment?
You know, it's too early to tell. That's something we're working on. We have a whole different project on mobility at the California Policy Lab.
Well, I'll be interested in that one too.
Yes, I'll be back. Happy to talk more about that, but it's certainly something important to look for.
Yeah.
After looking at what you found in this study, what do you feel like needs to be done to kind of course correct what has happened here?
Well, the important things for next disasters, just to keep in mind that these disasters spread because of all the economic ramifications in the labor market, but also in the product market and other markets. So when fire hits one area, we need to keep in mind that other areas will be affected. And so if we have programming such as unemployment assistance or disaster unemployment assistance, we need to make sure people know what is available to them. And of course, when we calculate the cost of these fires and think about the value of fire prevention, we need to keep in mind these ramifications, these spillover effects, as economists call them.
All right, makes sense. Professor von Wachter, thank you so much for joining us with the findings of that study.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we'll have you back.
Yeah.